Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Pew, 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 pew. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball After Dark. The Dallas Mavericks just fell in overtime to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 117-111. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe, and boy, gosh almighty, do the Mavericks suck. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing pretty good. But Kirk, the Mavericks are a good team. Deal with it. Man, that was, I don't know, that like a sum of all fears kind of loss. You're fired up, so I kind of want to see.
That's the worst loss of the Luka Doncic era.
I think I agree. Because the only other I think contender is when they blew that 30-point lead in Toronto, but Luka didn't play in that game.
No, that was just like that game sucked though. I don't even know how to describe this game because the Oklahoma City Thunder are a gutsy, talent strip team because some of their best players are hurt. And they came into this game and they made it an absolute slugfest. The referees in this game were dog shit. Ed Malloy, eat a dick. But that was not why the Mavericks lost the game. The Mavericks played a grinded out game. Luka and everybody else complained. They whined about non-calls. They were right, but it was a thing that happened. Head coach and chief, he's got the best seats in the house for this game. Head coach Jason Kidd just does a great job watching the absolute shit out of the Mavericks. I mean, he watches them with such intensity and just does such a great job watching that it's a real shock to me when he attempts to coach. And so the short of it is the Mavericks finally got up in the fourth quarter. Finally. And that was led in no small part by third-year forward Josh Green, who
was a bench mob lineup for sure.
Just like pure energy, just energy. And the Mavericks get up by, it was double digits. And Luka Doncic comes back in the game.
They were up 95-79 with 5:41 left in the fourth
16 points, team. And they lost it all. Luka Doncic and company went into prevent offense and scored how many points?
Scored 4 points in the final 5:41.
Truly horrific. We're right around Halloween, so I suppose it dragged like it was a murder.
And by the way, that's with Wood making a bucket with 4:14 left. So they scored 2 points in the final 4 minutes.
Jason Kidd did not call any timeouts. That's not fair. But he called timeouts after things were too far gone. Yeah. I don't know what to do with this one. I really don't. Shout out to Mavs, Locked On Mavs, friend of the program, our buddy, Isaac Harris, who had the balls to tweet after the game, the Mavericks are 0-1 without JaVale McGee.
That was good. That was so good.
Because he's
so glad he did that.
He's been a big JaVale McGee guy. He said on record that he thinks JaVale McGee will be one of the best signings by the middle of the season, which I disagree with that, but great tweet. The Mavericks
it's a
tip
game.
off. They tip off in 17 hours. They play again.
Yeah, third game in 4 nights, second night of back-to-back.
I am very frustrated with Luka because I thought Luka got hammered, but also let it affect, like Lou Dort got in his skull and lived there. And Luka shot 8 of 23, I think, for the game.
Yep.
And Lou Dort is no small reason why. Now, Luka shot 19 free throws, so he definitely earned some of his points. 31 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists. But he let the physicality affect how he played because he didn't get back, etc. I am so frustrated by this loss. It is the Mavericks. They're going to say they should be 5-0. Well, guys, you're not. You're 2-3. Win a basketball game.
They're technically the fourth worst team in the Western Conference right now. I'm looking at the standings. Again, 5 games in, 2-3. But yeah, I think what sucked is, I mean, there are 1,000 things that sucked. I don't have OKC's 2-point percentage tonight, but they went 5 of 25 from 3. That's 20%. They still finished the game a hair under 50% from the floor. So I'm guessing they made a significant amount of their 2-pointers. And honestly, like, while we've been talking about the offense, like things are looking weird and there's no Jalen Brunson.
Defense was abhorrent.
And that's been a theme for almost all these losses, right? And even some of the win, like, the Nets game, that was a game that should have been over and shouldn't have gone to OT, and the Nets kind of made this crazy rally, kind of made a crazy rally in the second half. This is happening again in this game. It happened in the New Orleans game where they gave up a 40-point first quarter. Like, the defense in the last 5 minutes was non-existent. I mean, it was SGA being incredible and getting wherever he wanted, which, he's one to do. He's a really, really, really good player. But also, Lou Dort was blown by Luka routinely in the fourth quarter and overtime. I know Luka had a really nice strip on him, but like, that was definitely, like, Luka's defense was horrible. And I think it's not hard to connect the dots when he's playing a rough offensive game where he's getting absolutely hammered every time down the floor. Like, that definitely bled into his defensive performance. But yeah, there wasn't really much else there defensively down the stretch. And Lord Almighty, Jason Kidd,
I just think we're a year. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to say this now. Maybe they turn it around, man. Maybe they turn it around.
They'll turn it around.
But I don't feel bad about our Jason Kidd takes from last year, is what I'll say.
No, that's fair. I mean, I'm kind of getting sick of, like, the not calling of timeouts, the can he
hands in his pockets, standing there, horse shit. Do something.
Get a technical foul when your superstar is getting beat over the head with a bag full of soap. Like, that's what it kind of felt like watching Luka. But also, like
Luka's gonna get hurt.
Yeah. When we talk about, like, sustainability with his usage, it's these types of games where it's like, man, this is, like, not ideal for him to play 40 minutes, go through a blender, a meat grinder, in terms of a game where he's just getting hacked and hit every single possession, and then you lose. But one thing I noted, one thing I want to get in is, I think everyone should say goodbye to their hopes and dreams of Christian Wood starting or finishing games at the 5 as the low.
Oh yeah, that felt like a kid. That felt like a kid statement.
Yeah, well, guess what was the lineup those final 5 minutes and 41 seconds when the Mavericks absolutely collapsed? It was the theoretical dream lineup we've all wanted of Luka, Dinwiddie, Bullock, Dorian, and Christian Wood. And Kidd made no substitutions, made no adjustments, even when it was very obvious that it was not working. Like, that game was very much slipping away. And it didn't sneak up on them. Like, OKC, like, that run was pretty consistent in terms of how, like, it wasn't like they just made, like, a ton of threes in the final minute. Like, they were consistently whittling that lead down very quickly, and he made no changes. And it, like, I don't know this. I hope this isn't true, but, like, my conspiracy theory take is, like, he just was like, okay, you wanted to see this? Well, here it is. And look, it did terribly. Now he's got justification for never going to this lineup for the considerable future or making another change. Like, I know I want to believe that that's not what happened because I don't want to talk about stupid
no,
coaching
because here's the
conspiracy
thing.
theories.
Here's the thing. He's acted like Jason Kidd is why JaVale McGee is on this team. We have to stop pussyfooting around this. He wanted JaVale McGee on the team, so JaVale McGee is on the team. He is acting like he had no part in Christian Wood being on the team, and all his comments and declarations to this date have been like, well, we'll see, like a whole bunch of like passive aggression and stuff. Let me be honest. Wood was not a good defender tonight, but
No.
I would rather Wood fail and then figure it out than them do. Instead, I think you're right. They're going to put Wood in the phantom zone, and he's going to be pissed. Like, I'm not seeing the quotes because we do this live show during like we're not. You should probably go to media stuff, but I make you do these podcasts. And Wood is basically tossing Kidd under the bus in the post game pressers. And like that sort of stuff doesn't go away. It just doesn't.
Well, look at this. Tim McMahon, Jason Kidd made a point to mention that the Mavs tried a different closing lineup down this clutch meltdown versus Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
We left Seawood out there with that group, and it didn't go well on either end, Kidd said. So,
like, good luck. Good
like,
luck. What are we doing here?
This is Nerlens Noel part 2. Like, it's
what
the
are
same
we
exact
doing
vibes.
here? I am not interested in this. I am so mad. I don't know what to do with this because for years we have been told that our base assumptions, you, me, Mavs, Moneyball, our base assumptions on team building are wrong, that we get upset about the wrong things. Yet I am the one who wanted Luka Doncic before anybody in Mavs media knew who he was. Basketball is not as complicated as these people act like. And I get that there's contract difficulties. I get that there's things in play that are well beyond the simplistic, but there's the difference between this being a year where the Mavericks take their medicine and this being the year where through 5 games, they have made so many weird mistakes that the team is 2-3. Now, I say all this. Hopefully in a week or in a month, my stupid rambling will be just that. Stupid rambling.
And if we go on precedent, it's because this is apparently what the Luka Doncic Mavericks do. They don't start seasons well, and then they win every single game from January 1st.
That's correct. So hopefully I'm an idiot. I much prefer being an idiot, like just to be clear about that. But this sort of stuff drives me nuts where it's just like, how can we be having passive aggression takes through game 5?
Yeah.
Like JaVale McGee didn't play because JaVale McGee sucks. He's played 50 minutes this season. What are we doing?
Yeah, rest. I don't like that Kid quote is just like, we're just asking for it, right?
Well, it's like, the same. It is the stuff that we talked about before he was hired. And everybody told us, oh, he's a changed man. Nope. Have I changed in 5 years of doing this or in 9 years of, we are who we are. We can learn, we can improve. But at the end of the day, I'm a lunatic. You're the rational guy. Doyle is the cynic. Like, Kidd is the coach who's going to throw bombs. It's what made him a great player.
Yeah.
He's feisty. This stuff drives me nuts.
And the Wood thing is just tough because like it or not, you've got 2 players on your roster that can dribble, and Wood probably counts as the third. Like, you just look at the way this team's constructed, and like, I'm sorry if you don't like Christian Wood. He has they have to figure it out. Like, if they want to be a good team, they have to figure it out. They didn't make any changes to if Wood isn't part of the equation in terms of trying to get him and Kidd and get them on the same page and make sure that they're maximizing his talent to the best of the team's abilities and his abilities. Yeah. The team isn't the team. It's the team from last year minus Brunson plus JaVale McGee. Like, that's it. And that doesn't work. I don't care if that team went to the Western Conference Finals. Like, we've seen it and Kidd even said it in pregame where he's like, that was a different team. This is a new team. Like, it's just, you can't just run it back, losing your second best player and adding like a player like McGee who's really not going to make it. Like, they're going to look worse at times. And they looked pretty bad. And the funny thing about, like, they could be 5-0, they could be 0-5. Like, that Brooklyn win is looking less and less impressive by the minute if you've been paying attention to anything the Brooklyn Nets have been doing this season. They're 1-5, by the way. They just got waxed by the Indiana Pacers, who are trying to lose as many games as possible. And then their other win is, while a really impressive 40-point win against Memphis, like that Memphis team was on third game in 4 nights and missing 2 starters. So like, if they can't put away Brooklyn without needing OT, if they can't beat the Pelicans without 3 starters, if they can't beat the Thunder, who were missing Josh Giddey, by the way, in addition to like some of the other stuff that's going on with that team with, no Chet, like we know where the wins are going to come from, because it's going to come from like the team doing this thing where they just kind of flip a switch and they decide, oh, let's start taking this like for real. And guys that start the season cold start hitting shots, like Dorian. I think we talked about in Slack, is a career 28% 3-point shooter in October, and then in like January he's like 40%. So like some of that's going to factor into it, but like looking at the schedule, it's getting difficult for me to predict when they're going to pull themselves out of this funk, because they really haven't played the hardest schedule. Phoenix is good, New Orleans is good, but New Orleans wasn't at full strength. I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't feel good about the two. Like, the 2 wins aren't necessarily like, I can't go back and look at those and be like, okay, those are alleviating my concerns a little bit. Like, just look at what they did in those 2 games. And it's just like, I don't know, those 2 games look more like the outlier out of these 5, because the 3 losses are following the same pattern, right? It's just this kind of bad defense, and then offense when it matters most seems to be questionable at best. And the only reason I can think of for them to pull themselves out of it is just like we said, the precedent. They just seem, when January 1st hits the calendar, they just seem to flip a switch, and guys that are missing shots start making them. And Luka's in better shape, although he started the season in better shape. So I don't know. This one was really, really bad. And I know the Thunder beat the Clippers twice, but I also think that there's some things going on. Like, I don't know how good the Clippers are going to be this season. I think they've got some serious team issues. But now we're talking about another team, so I don't know. It's just, it'd be one thing if like they were losing these games, but like the Wood thing is what hangs over this, right? Like, it'd be one thing if it was the same group and they were just losing these close games. They need to figure it out. But like the fact that they're losing these games and they've also got this really bad potential locker room mess, off court mess.
Well, it's a self-made mess.
That sucks.
It's a self-made mess.
They traded for Wood.
This is advertiser content brought to you by Frito-Lay.
Hello, I'm Chip Murphy, here to get you ready for the big tournament. Tonight we'll break down who will be cutting. Cut! What are you two doing?
Sorry, Chip. Prez here got his feathers ruffled when I told him Ruffles has 0 chance of winning the title.
And I was letting Dip know that she is not taking into account Ruffles' iconic ridges.
Guys, it's March. We have to start talking about the tournament.
We are. It is the 2023 Frito-Lay Snack It.
We're talking about big-time matchups between Cheetos, Smart Food, Lay's, Sun Chips, and more.
Just head to the Frito-Lay Snack Bracket and vote for your favorite chip, pretzel, or dip for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks.
This sounds great. Keep up the good work.
Just go to fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends 4/3/2023. Void where prohibited. Here's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for 1 bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com.
They traded for Wood. You make it happen with Wood. This stuff where Kid acts like he's a bystander is driving me fucking crazy. Like, these post-game quotes suck.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
and it's like, look, he coached a hell of a season last year. He did. But him and Nico Harrison are a package deal. They do things together. This is not like Donnie Nelson, who sort of lived and died by the seat of his own decisions with, it doesn't sound like, a hell of a lot of oversight. Kidd and Harrison make things happen together. So they made a gamble for Wood, of which Kidd was a part. He's not allowed to wash his hands of this and acts like this is not my fault, which is sort of what he's done. So here's the thing. Wood's good. And I'm not that interested in, JaVale McGee was a terrible signing. I'm fine with saying that. Okay. It was pointed out to me that when Kidd was coach of the Milwaukee Bucks heading into the second year, they gave a 4-year deal to a particular forward who was out of the rotation within 6 weeks. And it was a guy that Kidd insisted that they have. What was it? Shoot, this is terrible podcasting. It was Tony Snell. They gave Tony Snell a 4-year deal. And it was because Kidd insisted on having him. Okay. Shit happens. But and it's just like, why do we act like all this stuff is just outside of their control? Like, it's one thing for this to be a year where, because the Mavericks don't have assets, this was going to be difficult. If
Wood was a player that was from the previous regime that Kidd and Nico had inherited, but they didn't.
And if Wood is, if we're to sort of forgive the Brunson walk, which I sort of think we have to, even though I don't want to. I want to say that's just a series of circumstances. Like, there's so many people involved that it's difficult to sort of to wrap my hand around. The Mavericks made a mistake is what I'll say, but I don't think it was solely their mistake. I think there's a lot going on there. So it's like, once Brunson walks, the path to being a good team is very difficult. Not to say it can't be, because Luka's amazing, but things with Wood have to go just right. And so far they haven't. And there's just this notion, this floating around, this concept that the Mavericks are not entirely responsible for what went on here. And I don't get that. I just don't get it. I don't know.
And down the stretch, I'm looking at the play-by-play because we probably should talk about, like,
Luka was tremendously bad.
Luka?
Luka, yeah.
Yeah, Luke, yeah. I mean, that's part, and again, remember when I talked about the first quarter in that New Orleans game, and it's like, if you're the leader, you get put up on people's shoulders when you accomplish great success, but when the team struggles, like, that's part of the thing. Like, he's got a $200 million contract. Like, he can take a little criticism. It's not going to be the end of the world. He's obviously one of the best freaking players in the league, and when we criticize him, we're not like, trade him, or us doing these little criticisms aren't going to be the reason, like, if something bad happens down in the future. Like, he's a big boy. It's not a big deal. He doesn't even listen to this crap anyway, so who cares? But, like, I just feel like it's not out of bounds to talk about this stuff, like, when he's the guy. We did this when Dirk was here too. Like, you set the tone as the leader. You set the tone, and when he came back into the game, like, the bench that lineup had one level of juice, and then he came back into the game, and things just kind of dried up. And part of me was kind of, I said in Slack, I was like, don't put Luka back into the game. And I think people, our writers in Slack were like, what? Like, are you mad at Luka? And I'm like, no, nothing against Luka, but this lineup's feeling it. Like, let them ride this out. They've got a double-digit lead. You're playing tomorrow. Give Luka as much rest as possible. Why don't you push this bench lineup that's killing it? And, they're up 16. You can afford a couple of possessions to see if the Thunder get it back down to 10 or 10 or below. And then you could put, like, there was still enough time to where I think they could have pushed that lineup a little longer and seen if they closed the game out with giving Luka a really nice fourth quarter rest so that he could hopefully,
let Josh Green play. I'm so annoyed.
That was so his best quarter in years. Right?
I'm so mean to Josh Green every damn game, and I don't get a chance to talk about how he played the best basketball I've seen him play in a real game, other than the playoff stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all because he's overly committed to these rotations for no reason. The Mavericks played basketball in, 18 hours. What is the harm of letting the guy who's 21 play basketball more?
Right.
What is the harm?
They built a 16-point lead. I don't know if he was worried. I don't know how. I don't have the stats. I don't know if that lineup was on the floor too long and he was worried that those guys were going to get tired. They didn't look tired to me. And man, it just, like, that was a night to just be like, man, let's just let it ride and let's just see what happens. Like, it'd be one thing if that bench lineup had pushed it to like a 4-point lead, or like, they pushed it to a 16-point lead with 5 minutes left. I think you can give that group a chance to maybe close it out, so you can save your starters for tomorrow or save your big guns for tomorrow, namely Luka. So that was frustrating. It just I would have. I'm not saying it would have worked, but I don't see the harm in going another minute, another 2 minutes, and seeing if you can just steal some time for Luka to rest and stay on the bench and maybe put a team away and not need to play your superstar 40 minutes. And then he played 40 minutes anyway and they lost. I want to say another thing about Wood, and he was on the floor for the collapse. So like he definitely had his hand in it. And I don't think he played a very strong defensive game. He had a good block, but I didn't like some of his rotations. It was kind of the stuff that we talked about before he came to Dallas. But he had 10 shots tonight and he was 5 of 10. He didn't make his threes, but he looked really good inside the arc. And in that bench mob run, he had a couple of nice buckets, attacking, weaker OKC defender. OKC had no one that could guard him because their big man rotate. Like they don't have any big men. Like they start Poku, for goodness sakes, who's 190 pounds soaking wet. Like they don't play any real, Mike Muscala is their backup center. Like what? I was dumbfounded that when Luka came back into the game and they were trying to close it out, Wood had one. He made that bucket with 4:14 left. He made a 2-pointer. It was really nice move for him to get to the rim. And I think he was kind of contested, but he finished through contact. After that, he had one 3-point shot with 2:44 left, and that's it. And I'm like, that's why you brought him here. Like, if you're worried about him closing on the defensive end, which is fair, if you're going to let him close, why aren't you spamming pick and rolls with him? Why aren't you getting him matched up with these OKC defenders that could not guard him inside the 3-point line? And like, that's the part where I'm just like, you got to if you want to make this work, you got to utilize these guys to their full potential. If Wood is going to close games, him getting one shot in the final 4 minutes of a clutch game is a misuse of him, right? Because what is his skill set? Getting buckets, scoring efficiently.
How much of that is on Luka? I think that's more. I think a lot of that's on Luka.
That could be on Luka for sure. He's the point guard.
Pass the man the ball. Don't dribble for 22 seconds of a possession.
Yeah, and if we're led to believe that Kid is kind of like lets these guys play through things and isn't necessarily he's like the anti-Rick in terms of like calling sets from the sideline, absolutely that Luka deserves some blame on that. But then that goes back to like Kid kind of throwing Wood under the bus when it's like, well, the dude didn't get any. He's a big man. He can't walk the ball up the floor and get his own shot. You have to run sets, you have to run plays, you have to give him the ball in decent position. And they didn't do that. That was a shame. I can't believe he only had one shot in the final 4 minutes with how he was looking in the second half, scoring the ball.
Well, I find myself just disgusted. I'm going to have to go edit this podcast and take some things out because I'm just so frustrated.
Come on.
I'm just so frustrated. Like these, I don't know. I find myself, I think it's okay to be skeptical, okay? And you and I get a ton of grief for bringing up valid things. And when these things become true, I can't figure out if I'm more angry because I'm right or we were right, or if I'm angry because we were told we were stupid. And you're right to bring up the fact that like over the past 2 seasons, the Mavericks have just like cooked with gas after a certain point and they've been fine. And maybe that'll be the case this year. But I live in a perpetual state of, oh no, because when you get the superstar, your path to becoming a good team does not become easier. It becomes harder. And outside of really the Reggie Bullock signing, there's not that much that has bounced the Mavericks' way since they drafted Luka, they drafted Brunson. And then so many decisions that they've made haven't panned out.
Yeah. Every 2019 offseason signing is no longer on the team. The
2020 draft was a disaster. Josh Green aside, I like even if you're happy about Green, I'm sorry. He was the worst available choice out of the guys that were around him. It just
Tyrese Maxey just scored 44 points in a game.
We can't, like, I'm not interested in those conversations from other people. Oh, he could be. No, he can't. It'll be,
or even if he is, he's not going to be
not for like 5 years. Right.
He's not going to be a guy that scores 35 points like Desmond Bain just did or Maxey can do. Like,
yeah. And so it's really painful. It's really difficult for me.
But then it's like we're having these soliloquies 5 games into the season.
Right. So hopefully we're just fucking stupid. I prefer
that's the thing I love about you. You openly are like, come on.
I don't care. Like it's so much better. Like that's the thing people have to understand. It is legitimately better for you and me if the team is good. And we're wrong. We get more page views. We get more downloads. People want to talk to us about this stuff. This podcast will get like 40% of what the normal ones get because everyone's just going to want to run away.
Yeah, no one wants to read about losses. They're not fun. Losses aren't fun.
Some stuff out.
This was a bad loss. Man.
Oh man. All right, guys. We're going to be back tomorrow night and really in like 15 hours and have another one. I'm going to go host a post-game show and we'll see how it goes. And come to MavsMoneyball.com. We'll have all the content. We'll talk to you when we talk to you. This has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. Thanks so much for hanging out during our event session, and we will be back soon.